welcome to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions. Here we have intimate conversations with extraordinary dance and theater artists about reimagining creativity and supporting and building community. CVJS and I walk as allies and in solidarity for equality, justice, and respect. Black Lives Matter. And let's unite. I'm Helen Pickett, and today's guest is Alia Kache, choreographer and educator. Alia and I met for the first time in 2002. She and I have been down many roads, and here she is, Alia. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm great.
Good.
It's so good to see you.
I love your room.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful room. I've always loved I'm an exposed brick fan.
Yeah, me too. We saw this apartment and we moved back to New Jersey from the West Coast, sorry, and decided to move back. We saw this apartment and it was more expensive than we wanted it to be. But I fell in love with the brick, and it's got the tin ceilings and the exposed ducts, and it's the East Coast apartment that you want.
Yes,
And
yes. And it also looks like nice big windows.
yes, these windows are like 7 feet.
Wow, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And where in New Jersey, may I ask?
And we talking.
Okay,
Yeah.
so close enough to the city.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. Well, I'm glad you're back on the East Coast.
Thank you. Me too.
I mean, I'm a Californian. I love my California, but I'm glad to have you on this side. Maybe we'll be on the other side again together at some point.
Hopefully.
So I start with the first question for everybody. What part of the world are you in? Which you already answered. So, I guess we can skip that one.
Yeah.
So I want to jump right in with the last thing that actually we were a part of together, something that you started. You know, uh, our new president is in office and our new vice president. And yeah, exactly. And, I have to say that you did a formidable fundraiser and you got it together in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, at least when you asked me, I don't know how much, I'll hear, like, I want to hear the genesis of it and when you started it. But you created and organized for Stacey Abrams, Fair Fight for Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, who both got in as senators. Your efforts contributed to them winning. It's true. Every effort, right? How did you come to this idea? What was why? What was that in you? And how long did it take to organize? And I say, please, all of the details. I love these notes that I put in for myself. And has this sparked further interest in fundraising?
I'll start with the inspiration. During the general election, the presidential election, my husband was so active. He was phone banking and making videos for friends and family to share, posting on all of these boards, and here's why it's important to vote. Here's what you can do. Why are you thinking of voting this way? Have you thought about this? And talking to these people on the phone that had no intention of voting for Biden, none.
Wow.
And
he's a native Georgian, right?
And he's a Georgian, yes. He is from Atlanta, the Atlanta area. He's not from Atlanta proper. But, just talking to these people and getting them to stay on the phone with him and, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And, facts, and heart and all of it. And, I felt, obviously, I think with a lot of people, this huge sense of relief when the race was called.
Yeah.
It felt like I could breathe.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a future for me. I felt like I could think about having kids and, starting a family, and, life's not over. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I felt like I could live.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when the Georgia race was not called, it was like, oh, he has to be able to do stuff. He has to be able to do the work. What can I do now? He's done my husband did all this work, and, not that I sat there and did my part, I voted, but I wasn't as active as he was. And that just, I thought, I can do something. I can do something. I have this film. I bet other people do too. And so I immediately, I think within 2 days, started reaching out to choreographers. You were one of the first people that I reached out to. And yeah, all of my friends that I know that have been experimenting with dance film during this time. And, even people that I didn't know, I got recommendations from friends that have been in other people's films, or, they knew of someone that was doing a thing. And I just started reaching out to people and seeing who was interested, who wanted to do something. And I got a few no's, but mostly I got a lot of hell yes. And that was really exciting. And at that point, when you get all the yeses, it's like, oh, now I have to do the thing.
Exactly.
And Ryan, my husband, was really, really good about helping get everything off the ground. He did all of the graphics. He put all of the videos together. He helped me with the social media campaign. And it was fun to put together. It ended up being a lot of fun. It was a rush. And if I ever do, when I do something like this again, I will. That was the other part of the question. I will be doing something like this again. I enjoyed it. And I feel like art in service of a greater good is, for me, what art really is. That is why I do it.
Yeah.
And to be able to lend my voice to such a great cause, to help me live, to help other people live, just basic stuff, being able to walk down the street without, being in fear. I think it's totally worth it, and I will be doing more of it.
Yeah.
Not without a team.
There you go. There you go. And that's it's so important. Correct me if I'm wrong, but because you're a lot younger than me. But have you noticed a difference? I'm gonna say, I guess the word I'm thinking, only word I'm thinking of now, of the openness of the conversation since, well, let's say since 2002. Since, so we I taught you, you said in 2004, right? That's when we actually, yeah, but met you, like maybe subbed in 2002. So let's take 2002. Do you recognize a difference in the openness of conversation? Is this kind of conversation this kind? You know what where you can say exactly what you said. I don't live in fear of walking down the street, or I don't live in fear for voicing my opinion. Or do you feel like this is opened up? I want to hear your opinion about it.
I do. It's weird. For me, it absolutely has opened up, and I find myself engaging in these types of conversations with strangers often. I'll be on the road and having a drink with a friend, and we're talking about it, and someone sitting next to us at the bar will go, "Hey, so I just happened to overhear your conversation, and blah, 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 and insert themselves, but not in a hateful way, just engaging, in the conversation. So there's a lot of that, and it feels really good to be able to have those conversations. At the same time, there are still a lot of people that feel like these types of conversations are not meant for public or for mixed company, or, politics are not personal.
Don't you think that's an older generation?
Yeah, it is. I think so.
I mean, I'm including myself in that. I don't feel that way. I've been having the conversation since I moved back from Frankfurt, when I thought, my ballet world had changed, and I saw that it hadn't, because I was living in a bubble of change with Frankfurt and with Bill, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, people in my generation, and certainly older, maybe my generation's already evolved in a way, but I think there's a lot of, maybe 40 and younger, let's say that, maybe that has been more of an evolution, but I still wonder. I think the older generation still thinks it's not polite. Let's just get along, right? These, which are not, they're innocuous, they're not bad, but they're not active. It doesn't
Yeah.
have agency.
Yeah.
And it's and beyond all that, I'm saying all this, I hear myself saying it, and then I keep coming back to the point, why does it even have to have those adjectives? Why? Let's just have the conversations. Let's make it a part of our life, because that is the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is part of what's going to bring a benevolent change, if we're human beings together.
Yeah.
And celebrating change, not saying we're all the same people, it's just, melanin. No, the celebration of change is what is going to, I'm talking about this. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That celebration of change, those conversations, and, getting to know each other, getting to know each other's struggles, or how we are alike, how we are different. Those things are all what make, that's the good stuff.
Yes.
That's the stuff that, like, I take from you, you take from me.
Yes.
We put it all together. We make this whole other thing that's beautiful and wonderful and can function.
Yeah. And important about acknowledgement, like, because there's been a lot of taking without acknowledgement.
Yeah.
So the acknowledgement, say, and I've been a big one, like, always acknowledge your history. It's a good thing for people to know where you came from, or to know where your influences. It's a good thing, and the cultural, like, yeah, let's learn more about each other's culture and not just dip in, like, really learn about it, and anyhow, yeah. Well, I was honored to be a part of that. I was thrilled when I was watching. I loved watching the two of you together. Your shtick was so good. It was so funny. I loved it. I was giggling to myself, and it worked. It worked. I had a similar feeling with you, like, oh my God, it's got to be redone. And I thought, he won't get anything done. It was exactly like you.
Yeah.
So, phew. Now, Alia, you graduated from Fordham University, Ailey program, Fordham University, and subsequently joined Ailey 2. Then went on to perform with Camille Brown and dancers, Portugal's Companhia de Dança or Danca?
Dança.
Dança? Okay. Contemporânea.
Contemporânea.
Thank you. And Lion King, to name a few. You chose to discover a wide spectrum of dance. Yeah, that seems like a choice, to dip into all these places, to go to Europe. How did this varied performance history, and I only named a few things, I know that. How did this varied performance history inform your artist identity? Was travel and dance in a foreign country something that called to you?
So the travel, I'm going to start there. Travel and dance, travel. I've always loved it. When I was a kid, my parents, especially in the summers, earlier on before I started dancing, and then my summers were full of summer intensives. But before that, we would always take road trips to different places, you know, visiting friends and family all over the country. Never had an opportunity to travel abroad, but it was something that I always wanted to do. And when my sister and I were like, we were home from school for a holiday or whatever, and we would watch The Price is Right. And you know, when it comes to the showcase, we always wanted the showcase with the trip. If we didn't have a trip, we didn't want that showcase. So I've always loved travel, always wanted to do it. And as soon as I had an opportunity to, I had to take it. And my experience at Ailey was, I think, probably the best education I could have gotten. Maybe not in the way that you imagine. We had access to lots of different choreographers and experienced lots of different techniques and ways of moving. But I went there to be an Ailey dancer. That's why I wanted to be at the Ailey School and do the Fordham program. And when I got there, it wasn't until I got there that I realized this might not happen.
Oh.
And, you know, I realized maybe I'm not an Ailey dancer. I thought I was. Everyone told me I was, but maybe that's not who I am. And, you know, through exploring and through basically not being one of the favorite dancers and not having all of the opportunities to perform and explore and experience all of these choreographers that I wanted to, it gave me an opportunity to really dig into who I am as an artist and what I want. And I couldn't have paid for that. I mean, you can't pay for that. But, and I realized, you know, I love theater. I've always loved theater. I don't like talking. Don't give me lines, but you know, the lights, the costume, the spectacle. I've always loved that. I've always loved travel. I've always loved experiencing different things. So, you know, I figured, why not just let the career happen? I don't have to be here at Ailey. I would love to, but it might not happen. And once I was okay with that, the world opened up.
I hear that again and again, you know,
Yeah.
when you let go of something.
Yeah. And then you get everything.
Yeah. And Portugal is an extremely beautiful country.
Yeah.
And it's, did you learn Portuguese?
A little bit. It was much better when I was there. You know, oddly enough, most of our rehearsals were held in English because the company was so varied. But there was a lot of Portuguese spoken in rehearsal. I picked up some things. I can still order in a restaurant. I can understand directions, and I wouldn't go so far as to say I can give directions. I think I would get someone terribly lost. But if you're telling me how to get somewhere, I can ask to get to where I need to go, and I can understand it. I do not speak as much, and I can read it fairly well.
Wow. It was when I first heard Portuguese when I was living in Europe, as you know, when I first got there at 19, I could not decipher what language, you know, I'd studied French in school and I had some German. I could not, I had to ask what language it was. I heard the Romance, you know,
Yeah,
influence, and but then when you start, when you know it, it was like I started getting an ear, but I literally couldn't decipher what language this was.
yeah.
It was very different from my ear, from anything I'd heard before.
It almost sounds Slavic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought, is it Scandinavian? Is it Slavic? Is it, yeah, it was interesting. And then when you know, you start, then you can recognize it because it
Mhm.
is so different sounding.
Yeah.
Beautiful sounds, you know, music.
Yeah.
um, so, okay. Um, I love this, the way you describe yourself. You describe yourself as a kinetic storyteller, dancer, singer, educator, and costume designer. We'll get into more of that a little later. Um, and you have dedicated your choreographic voice to creating honest, thought provoking theatrical experiences. Please elaborate on the evocative title, Kinetic Storyteller. I have quite a few questions here. I'll give you two right now. And would you consider yourself a dance theater choreographer? Kind of on the back of what you were saying, loving theater and the world of theater.
I do consider myself a dance theater choreographer, or at least that's my goal going in. It's very hard for me to do a dance for dance sake.
Mhm.
Um,
Does that even exist? That's my first question. Does it?
I
Isn't there always story?
there's always a story,
I think
right?
so, don't you? I mean,
Like
some of the
there's always a story.
choreographers, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I do really like to dig into the what am I saying? Why this step? What is this step saying? Does it serve the story? And if it doesn't serve the story, I don't use it. So as a result, I may not have a body of very explosive, exciting work in the way that we typically define that type of movement. There may not be a lot of grand jetés. You know, there may be a lot of floor work, even in point shoes. You know, I like to know the why. I like to justify the movement. One of the things that I've been exploring with lately is really playing with not abstract storytelling, still abstract storytelling, but using script writing to tell a story. So instead of, here's my general theme, here are the steps that go with this general theme, I want to know point A, what happens, or first of all, here's a theme. Second, create the story based on this theme to drive this theme home, with peaks and valleys and everything in between, in the same way that a script would do for a movie or play. And digging in that way. So every tendu, every arm flourish, every port de bras, every head, every look, everything, as much as possible, should serve the story and tell the story without words. My goal is to be able to have, from start to finish, an entire arc and have the audience understand that arc and have gone on a journey. I want you to laugh. I want you to have the rug pulled out from under you. I want you to cry. I want you to be angry. I want you to sympathize with the characters. I don't want to make a general story. I want that type of specificity in the work.
Beautiful. Yeah. Human.
Human. In the same way that we live our lives. You go outside, you take a walk, you see your friend, you wave, you go have coffee, you say goodbye, you walk outside again, you see somebody get hit by a bus. You help them, or you walk away, you live the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, the world and the journey of theater is, I mean, age old. Human beings have always needed ways to communicate. To communicate the life of being human, you know, it's psychology, it's everything. And it's I tell you, it's kind of, we're on the edge, we're in a precipice right now with COVID and the performing arts, being in theater. It is still very precarious as to when we will be able to congregate as a community again, to enjoy and feel, proprioceptively feel, be in the presence of our neighbors, if you will, our community in a theater. I had this conversation yesterday, and it really brought home again, you know, I mean, we might get in the studio again sooner to create, but when are we going to be able to be as a community again? And this is central to human nature. And I don't just mean proscenium, you know, like gathering.
We're not supposed to be alone. We've never been alone.
It's not, and it's not just the alone factor, it's the celebrating any kind of art or any kind of thing that gets us together. And we're going, I think we're in a time now where we are going to be in a big shift. And I'm not saying it's a negative. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Well, you just spoke about it. When you have a journey or an experience, struggle is very often a part of it to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it would be nice if the scales are more even as far as who's struggling and who isn't.
That part.
That's a big thing, you know, more seats at the table. You know, the voices of America being heard. So
yeah,
that's beautiful. There's some more questions along these lines. So who were your influences, if it's dance theater or in general? And one more along these lines, and this is actually, oh, when you were rehearsal director, and I wanted to make sure that that was out there, of Alia too, did that spark interest in choreography? So the first one is influences, and then the work in the front of the room as rehearsal director for Alia too, did that spark some interest in choreography?
Influences. I think obviously am influenced heavily by Alvin Ailey. That was my introduction to Black people dancing. And, you know, having an opportunity to really dig into his work, first as a student, then as a performer, and then as a rehearsal director, and experiencing him on all of those different levels. He really has some very profound work, and I wonder what he would have been doing now.
Me too.
I really do. And I don't pretend to, you know what was in the man's head. But for me, that's kind of been my starting off point. I have been influenced by William Forsythe. I feel like a lot of the way I explore movement is through the work that we did, that you guys taught us, working with this improv modalities. I love Bob Fosse. Also a big influence in the way that I move. Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Love, love, love Wes Anderson. Tim Burton.
Storytelling, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you were to take my brain out and look at it, it probably looks like a Tim Burton film.
Fun brain.
It's colorful. It's a little swirly.
Yeah.
Pina Bausch. Definitely Pina Bausch. And this is really, I think, kind of going back to part of what you were talking about having seats at the table and equity and all of that. I realized a little while ago, and I actually wrote a journal entry about this a while ago, that a lot of my influences are white men. And that's frustrating. That's frustrating for me. Because I don't see I don't see myself in the work that I'm most inspired by. And that's something that I want to change. And even, I mean, I'm looking around at my peers and, you know, Camille Brown is doing some wonderful storytelling. Oh my God. And
Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle Abraham's doing some wonderful
and
stuff.
Kyle, yeah. Yeah, I love his work. But on the scale of what I want to do, in the way that I want to do it, there's not much. There's not much. And so I feel like I need to change that, and I'm just going to keep doing the work to do that. The other question.
Oh, yeah, I got all into listening. Oh, well, actually, did it spark your interest in choreography? And you kind of went there, yeah.
It drove me. It did not spark it.
Okay.
I've always been a creator.
Okay.
Always, always, always. Before I started dancing,
okay,
I was making dances, making everything. I remember, well, I don't remember, but my parents tell me this story of them talking about buying a new car. And, you know, this car just cost more than they wanted to pay for it. And I said, well, I'll help. You can help us? How? Well, I can get a job. I'll cut paper. I'll make art. I was probably like 5 or something. Of course I can get a job cutting paper. Of course I can get a job making my art. People will love it. It'll be fine. I'll help you buy your car. I've always made dances. I've always made things. And when I started training, when I finally had an opportunity to train in dance, a lot of that training was also in improv and choreography. We learned steps, you know, we learned technique, but if the class was an hour and a half, you know, I think Tuesday, Thursdays, I went to performing arts school, and on Tuesday and Thursday, my dance class was an improv class. And we would spend an hour and a half exploring how your finger can move your body. What things can you do with that finger? Now add another finger. Now add your ear. And we were required to choreograph for a grade. And I loved it. And that was my favorite part of dance.
Great.
So the dance for me was always to get to that part, the making.
Great.
And being, I reached out to Troy when I found out he was going to be artistic director, and I actually sent him my reel, my choreographic reel, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to choreograph. And he had other ideas about my role at for Ailey too at that point, and I was happy to oblige. And that experience was, again, an education that you could not pay for.
Yeah.
It taught me how to work. It taught me, how to think about speaking to people, how to get the most out of someone in the least amount of time. Because, these choreographers come in and you've got 3 weeks, you got 45 hours to create a ballet, 30 minutes. Some of them were shorter, but let's say a 20 to 30 minute dance, you got 45 hours to do that and clean it. And how do you get from A to Z effectively? And then after they're done, I got an opportunity to dig in with them, and now we're really gonna talk about what it is that's driving this piece and what's your part in driving this piece and how does that affect your movement now? So you can't, yeah, sure. I see that you can do 3 pirouettes. That's wonderful. What's your motivation? Why are you doing this turn?
Yeah, so the experience, it's what I love about these conversations is I hear genesis, and it's so important for younger people. You're young, but I mean, let's say a 20-year-old, right? To hear your experience, to hear why you're here now, and to hear that, the expansion is linear and non-linear. And like you said, if you opened up your brain, it would be Tim Burton. And I think you're gonna find a really great female to put in your brain as well, and to add to the conversation, like you said.
Yeah.
But I want to move on because this is really important, because it's really about what you're doing. One of the big things you're doing now. You're an artistic director of your company, Kashal. Is that how you say it?
Kashal Dance.
Kashal Dance. Your choreography spans from self-produced evening-length works in notable international festivals in Portugal and New York, to commissions for Ballet Memphis, Ailey 2, Houston Contemporary, and Chattanooga Ballet, among others. You are a Lincoln City Fellow. You were an artist in residence with Restoration Art in Brooklyn, New York, and Ballet X's 2021 Choreographic Fellow. And coming up next is choreography, and I was so excited to read this, for the hit musical Urinetown for NYU Tisch. I mean, huge congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you see Kashal Dance manifesting in the future? As a commissioned artist, where would you like to choreograph? What are some of your plans and dreams and reimaginings for the coming years?
Well, my vision for Kashal Dance is to basically create large-scale evening-length productions. Broadway. I basically want to do Broadway and have these large productions tour. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I want. The problem is there's not a problem.
No.
There's not a problem.
No.
It can happen. I need to make it happen. Right now, I am mostly focusing on the creative work. So the company it's basically a vehicle for my voice.
Okay.
And I have not done the work of infrastructure, building infrastructure for my company. I think that once I do that, it will flourish. In the meantime, I like to work on a project to project basis. But I do have a big project going on up here that I'm trying to raise money for and get produced. And I really feel like once I do that, that is going to be the thing to really launch Cash All Dance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to have a body of work, right, is always, it's our calling card. It's our card, right?
Yeah.
And then this is something I've really been working on for the past 15 years, is to create, a network, always knowing that there's enough for everyone. Well, that's my dream.
Yeah.
That's my belief, not my dream. My belief is there's enough for everyone. So act accordingly. And so, yeah, there's nothing like getting in the mosh pit, like you just said, to manifest your dream. And then you do, whether it's money or word of mouth, you reach out to your network. And that is community. And that is where, our dendrites and axons, like in the brain, where we're like this, and then we reach for each other, and then they get, and then we're like this, and that's the beauty of community. And you're absolutely right. It's focus, and then it's reaching out, and then it's focused and focus and focus and focus. And I mean everything that is focus, work, and everything. But yeah, it's absolutely possible, Alia.
Yeah. It is, and I'm really looking forward to exploring this project. It is a kind of an Afro-futuristic take on climate change, and consumerism, and basically how we all affect how our practices, our consuming affects our surroundings. And I haven't built the story yet, but I'm working on it. I think it'll be a lot of fun to put together. And yeah, things like that, things that address social issues, no matter how large or small. It's always the focus of my work, and that is something that I want to be the focus of Cash All Dance. With all the lights and costumes and scenery.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of costumes, you love costume design. That's one of the branches that you do. Who are the designers that inspire you? And you actually explained that since you were a kid, you've always been making. So I assume that you were also dipping into that when you were, a child as well. Through the years. So it's been growing and growing. But who are those designers who inspire you in costume?
I really like Alexander McQueen.
Oh, me too. Did you see the thing at the Met?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I went 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that was gorgeous. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, there was I can't remember what there was a purple gown, and I actually did a piece. I heard this piece of music and it reminded me of that purple gown, and I made a whole piece based on that purple gown.
Talk about story. Alexander McQueen has story.
Yeah.
I mean, he, besides the epic shows he put on, like the chessboard, I mean, his individual pieces into the couture.
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah. each individual piece, you can look at it and say, I know who that person is.
Yeah.
I know where they're going. I know where they've been. I just love that, like an arc in a garment. I don't know how you manage that, but
Yeah.
yes, please and thank you. As far as costume design, I am a huge fan of Ruth Carter, who did the costumes for Black Panther. She's done some stuff for, I think she did Malcolm X and School Days. Yeah, and I really like the way she works. I saw, oh, what's the show on Netflix? I watch a lot of Netflix.
Me too.
It's a show, starts with a C. I can see the logo and everything. Anyway, they go into, they just talk about different people, and then they interview them and their process, and, you know, different artists, different people in different fields. And there was one with her, and just the amount of research that she has to do, and the dramaturgy, and the, you know, all of the things that go into each garment. And she thinks very clearly about each character, you know, and there's no one is left to like, we just put them in this.
Yeah.
You know,
Because every single person that is, and I'll talk about stage now, that is on stage is a part of the story, and not only that, has a story of their own.
Yeah.
Sandra Woodall in theater, and she's done film as well. She did costumes for my first full length. And I actually grew up with her in San Francisco because she was the head of costume in San Francisco Ballet. So I've known her a very long time. She's the same way.
Yeah.
Man, the research, the drawing and the research she came to me, that she brought to me, you know, when we talked a lot about it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
A wealth of story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love fashion, and I love costume design. I'm fascinated by it because it's not my world, and I'm fascinated by the story that's in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, perhaps you will have a part in your new epic, right?
Here's hoping. I won't be making them.
Help design them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awesome. I feel like I know what the piece looks like before I know what the piece is sometimes.
Yeah, I understand that as a creator. I understand that. Yeah, it's interesting when you know, in interviews, you know, what's your inspiration? And for every piece, I feel like it's at the starting point, you know, it circles around the same ideas, but I feel like the entry points are all very different. And sometimes it is costume and look. Sometimes it's the world before everything else. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. So we've come to the 3 questions that I ask everybody. And thank you so much so far. Wonderful talking with you. Can you share, I know you have many, but one favorite or impactful memory from your creative life?
Yes. This was a fairly early experience, but I've never forgotten it. And I feel like it fuels a lot of what I do. I had sorry. when I was performing with Alia too. This was not right after Hurricane Katrina, but not too far after. We performed at Baton Rouge. And the theater, we weren't sure the performance was going to happen because the theater had been used as a shelter. And it was, you know, one of those big theaters, I think it had like 1,200 seats or something. And, you know, the city is in ruin at this point. Still, you know, they still haven't built back a lot of the infrastructure. It may have been a year after. I don't think it was. But anyway, the performance happened. We were still able to go. And it was packed. The theater was completely packed. And, you know, they kept saying, well, there probably won't be a whole lot of people here. You know, we're thinking, well, we're just gonna section off and, you know, whatever. Full house. Full house. 2 encores of Revelations.
Oh.
We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. And it just, like, afterwards, we all got together and just, you know, we were on the bus and it just was overwhelming. You know, we could hardly get to the bus because people were stopping us and thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. We needed this. Thank you so much. And art is healing.
Yes.
It reminded me that art can heal.
And uplift.
And uplift. And again, art in service is the best. And that solidified it for me.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of, you know, cafetoriums and, and gymnasiums, you know, lecture demonstrations, but it made that moment made those feel right.
Yeah.
It made all of those feel like this is, yes, of course I'm dancing on a gym floor. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you train and train and train, and you mentally prepare for the big stage. But that work in that small room, you know, that's going to be the time that that little girl or that little boy sees a Black person on stage for the first time and thinks that is magical and that's who I want to be. That's what I want to do.
The example.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. In supporting and building a more equitable dance community, what are some specific daily practices that we can be active with?
Listening to each other, and again, acknowledging our differences and celebrating those differences, and making room for those voices to be heard, sharing the mic, sharing the stage. I think it's really important because it's going to make it, not only makes the artistic world richer, it makes each of us richer. There's something that I've said today that's going to inspire someone else to go, oh, well, I had this idea. I'm going to bring this to the table now. And it creates this whole other thing. I feel like there's this, I don't want to say a stigma against copying because you don't want to copy. Obviously, you want to have your own artistic voice. But there is something to be said from borrowing and acknowledging. You know, I am hugely influenced by specific modalities of William Forsythe's work, but one of the things that you would drive home a lot was like the backspace, using your back, right? And as a result, my work is very circular. I don't necessarily create for a proscenium. I just make a thing and tell a story, and I sit at different points of the room. And if your back is not in the story, if the movement that I've given you isn't reading from behind, then it doesn't matter, right? So we got to dig in and get all of that juicy movement in there. But you know, borrowed, acknowledged, richer for it. And I get to give that back. And now someone that works with me gets to go, oh, well, she wiggled in this way. I'm going to wiggle like this now, you know, and I think it just elevates everything. Yeah. Listening, sharing the space, sharing the platforms, and allowing all of these voices to be heard.
Yes.
There's space. There's so much space.
There's so much space. That's true. I mean, just like in the meta sense of the cosmos, you know, and we're one little grain and we're a bunch of grains, you know, on the beach together. We're together. Yeah. Keyword, together. Yeah. And then lastly, and you've shared so many, so maybe this is just one last one. Do you have an insight about that you can share about living a creative life? Something that you could, you know, a nugget of beauty that you can pass on to someone else.
Rest.
Okay. Yeah.
Rest. Allow yourself to stop and rest and dream. We tend to go, especially in New York. Go. What's next? I got to make my money, got to make rent, got to do the next thing. Stop. Just take a moment and breathe and dream. Who knows what you can come up with? You might come up with the next thing.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you know? But if you don't stop to look inside and take stock of what you've done, where you're going, where you can go, where you don't want to go.
Yeah. Also important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know those things. And yeah, I was recently asked about an opportunity that would be a big career opportunity. And I had to, like, of course, yes, I want this. Does it fit in with all of the other things that you say you want? Does it fit in with what you're building? And I had to stop, because otherwise I'm just gonna run full force into this thing that it's like, well, it's not actually for you. It's not for what you say you want. So I had to kind of go, well, these are the things that I want to have happen in my life. Does this fit? No.
Oh, Alia, I mean, what a beautiful and generous time in this session that we've shared together. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Your brightness, yeah, I can't wait to see I can't wait to see your epic idea. It sounds wonderful. A huge source of inspiration for anyone, this conversation. So thank you so much. I want to direct viewers to find out more about you. So do you have a website or websites?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, my website is www.aliakache.com. AliaKache. And my Instagram handle is lovelycap, LUVLICAP.
Great. And you have just alerted me that I've been saying your last name wrong, and oh, I wish you would have corrected me. I'm so sorry. I say Kache, and it's Kache, right?
Yes. Yes. That's okay. You know what? A lot of people do that because there is no accent at the end, because it is not French, it is Swahili.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
It's Swahili.
Mhm.
Okay, Kache, beautiful, beautiful. I like it because of Alia Kache. There's a W form for me. I'm slightly synesthetic, so there's words and health shapes and
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you. I will from now on call you Kache. So we have new guests every week, and our next interview will feature principal dancer with Scottish Ballet, Sophie Martin. And I want to do my thanks now to Gracie Spina. You know who you are, Gracie. I want to thank our beautiful dance world that upholds us and keeps open in community. Thank you so much, Alia. Uh, Thank you so much for spending this time with Creative Vitality Jam sessions. I hope to see you in person sooner than later. Give you a huge hug.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
It was fun. Keep reimagining creativity. Bye. See you next
Bye.
time.